Hey everybody, welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 425, and more importantly, it is the first Hump Day Hangouts of 2023. Had to say it slowly to make sure I got the year right. It's like writing checks back in the day. Got to make sure you switch it over. So anyways, gonna say hi to the guys. We got a couple quick announcements, and then I checked. I know we got a bunch of questions, and then we'll be watching the YouTube channel, of course, for questions too. If you've got them, make sure you leave your questions there. And as always, you can always go to semanticmastery.com/HD questions ahead of time. So maybe it's Monday afternoon, you got a question that's bugging you, you don't want to wait, go to semanticmastery.com/HD questions, pop your question in, and we'll be sure to get to it on the show. Otherwise, you can always join us here, semanticmastery.com/HDHO, and ask your question and interact with us, which is always great because if we need some clarification on a question, something like that, if you're not here live, it's hard to get that. But if you are, we can help you out. So with that said, I'm talk real quick to the guys and then we'll get into it. So Chris, how you doing today?
Super good, super warm and sunny in Austria. I was surprised how good things are here at the moment. No storms, unlike in the US. So yeah, I definitely like and enjoy it. Other than that, as typical, I'm very excited about what we're cooking for Local Fury. We just had a meeting like about an hour ago. So new exciting things are in development. So stay tuned. There will be an announcement the next couple of weeks. So super happy about that.
Nice. Okay, well, let's move 6 time zones over. Bradley, how are you doing? And what's the weather update on the East Coast of the US?
Been freaking warm, like crazy warm, like mid to 60s to 70 degrees. And it's very unseasonably warm, which it's okay. I'm not complaining. It's just odd this time of year for it to be so warm, but no, things are good. I had a nice mini vacation for the New Year's holiday. I went out of town to go ride my favorite place to ride ATVs down Southwestern Virginia. I booked 3 days out there. I only got 2 days because the Saturday, which was New Year's Eve, it rained all fucking day, and I don't like riding in the rain. So I canceled out early and visited my family. And a bunch of my family were together at a lake house. And so I went and visited them, spent the weekend or the evening with them, my nieces and nephews. And I didn't have my daughter, but I had got to be with a lot of my family. So it was fun. And it was nice to unplug for a couple of days and kind of set things into perspective. It's interesting. I mentioned this before, guys, but I think it's important to do that. Like in 2023, I'm going to do it every quarter. Every quarter, I'm going to take off for 3 days. Unplug completely. So just for all of you that are in the mastermind, just be aware that that's going to happen 4 times this year. Last year in 2022, I only took off 3 times for the entire year. And so anyways, I want to do that at least every quarter this year. But I think it's important to get away and just unplug. And when I say unplug, I mean unplug, like get rid of your phone, like check it maybe in the morning and at night or, whatever, but like unplug, man, because it gives your mind space. Like it gives your head room to kind of like think and decompress and all that kind of stuff. And for me, it was really the last time I took off like this to get away and unplug and think, I made a significant breakthrough in my link building business that brought me from what my revenue goals were at the time to more than twice that, 2.5 times that. In 4 months, I was able to 2.5x my link building revenue because I took off for 3 days and was able to think and plan and strategize. So that's what I did this past weekend for New Year's. I took off for a couple of days and I started strategizing, and I really kind of developed another plan that I'm going to start implementing immediately this year, which is my retirement plan. Like, I've been investing in what's called a self-employed pension plan for years and an IRA and all this other kind of stuff. But if any of you guys have any money in 401k and all that kind of stocks and bonds and mutual funds in the United States, your shit is tanked in the last year. Like, I mean, I've lost 40% of my retirement in the last year that I've been saving for fucking decade now. You know what I mean? And so anyways, I'm going to start moving my money away from currency and all the crap that's going on in our economy and putting it in raw land. And that's kind of the epiphany that I had over the weekend was, I used to, for about 2 years, I flipped raw or vacant land and just did it to generate revenue. But I know how to buy land very cheap, like 30 cents on the dollar. So I'm just going to start dumping all my money into buying raw land. because that never goes away. The value is not going to decline. It's very unlikely to decline anyway. So it was the reason I'm telling you that, guys, is just I think it's important to kind of get away and decompress and literally unplug, stop the noise long enough to be able to kind of like think through goals and what's important to you and all that other kind of stuff. And for me, it was one of those ideas where it's when it hit me like a lightning bolt. And it was just like, why am I putting my money in stuff that is declining in value now when I could be putting it in something that is tangible, that will never go away? They're not making any more land, so it only goes up in value. You know what I mean? So anyway, just kind of an important time this time of year to reflect and set goals and everything else. And I encourage you guys, take some time to do that. I mean, we all have our New Year's resolutions, but that's a bunch of bullshit, right? 'Cause I mean, like, we don't need a specific date to start something new. What really matters is taking the time to kind of plan it out. Think it through, write it down. That kind of stuff matters. And I think people make New Year's resolutions often, and they don't go through that exercise of like writing it down and articulating or defining what your goals are and what your whys are. I talked a little bit about that this morning on my first live stream for Twitch. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I had a great time off. It was really nice, but hey, it's 2023. We got a lot of work to do this year, guys. So,
yes, we do. And, a couple follow-ons to that, Bradley. I think we've talked about this a lot, and I totally agree with you. I think having unplugged time, especially if you can make it truly unplugged, I'm not in the office, if you can put the phone away, or, maybe you got clients, you got to check in once a day, but then put it away. Yep. And then you're letting your unconscious unwind. And then you also start to solve problems because your brain isn't so focused on it. And yeah, that can be such a great thing to have. And I think something else, maybe we should implement this for the Mastermind members. We've done a lot for them, and we got some really good stuff coming this spring, some upgrades and some things we want to do for them. But maybe we need to start helping them unplug and be like, we're going to form, instead of forming mini masterminds, we're going to form mini time off groups or something. But I don't know how that would work. But yeah, it's such a powerful thing if you could do that, because I know it's easy to get stuck, and we got to keep going and going and going. And the term I picked up from somebody else is called fire breaks, and it's setting something. So like maybe for you, it's scheduling that stuff and paying for, an Airbnb every quarter. So it's like, hey, it's already done. It's already there. I've got it, instead of saying, well, I will take this time off. And I know for myself, that can be really helpful. It's like, nope, I already bought the airplane tickets. If I don't go, I'm going to lose $1,000. So I'm taking the time off, doing something like that.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, speaking of the Mastermind, I guess, Bradley, you had, I think, shared a little bit with the Mastermind about what you're doing on Twitch, and you talked about it briefly, but do you want to share with everyone a little bit more about what you're doing?
Yes, and I'm just really excited about it. I spent a couple of weeks preparing for all of this, and I was supposed to start really yesterday, but my first attempt at streaming live on Twitch failed. It didn't work. And so I spent several hours literally preparing for it on Monday to prepare for yesterday, but it still didn't work. So I ended up spending 3 or 4 hours last night configuring everything, and I got it to work this morning. It worked, and it worked. I mean, it's a little bit rough because it's my first attempt, but it was good. I was supposed to only go for an hour. I went ahead and set my schedule on my Twitch channel. By the way, it's twitch.tv/Bradley Benner. Just go there, guys. Follow me if you're on. Like, I've never been on Twitch before. I set up my own account, so I'm unfamiliar with it, but I'm going to become familiar with it very quickly. That's where all the raw footage is going to go. So I already set my schedule. I'm going to do 6:30 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday. Okay. And it's supposed to be for an hour, but there will be times where it will go less, and there will be a lot of times where it will go more. Today was my first one, and it went out like 95 minutes. So it went like an hour and 35 minutes or so. So that's going to happen often. Just keep in mind, the Twitch channel is for raw streaming footage. There are going to be times like today where I did a lot of talking and narrating as I was doing what I'm doing. There's going to be other times where I'm just going to be straight up working, and the cameras are just going to be showing what I'm doing, or my screen, or the cameras in the screen. And that's it. I may make some comments here and there, but the point of this is the raw footage for people that want to follow along. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are going to be the schedule where I work on the Rank&Rent SEO mastery, which is the process that I'm going to go through from start to finish. Again, we started today, but going through on how to build a Rank&Rent or local SEO lead gen business, specifically for lead generating. So either renting the assets or pay per lead. Okay. But start to finish, we're going to go through the whole process, research to determine an industry, all the way through monetizing the assets after we've ranked them. We're going to go through that entire process. I'm going to do it live. So there's no questions about, oh, well, he did this and he did that. No, bullshit. It's going to be all streamed 100% live. So there's no question as to the viability of this strategy. Does that make sense? So that's going to be Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be other agency related work stuff that I have to do, because it's just, I want to spend part of the reason, guys, again, this is back to what we were talking about with Adam and just a moment ago about setting goals and, holding yourself accountable and those kind of things. Like Adam said, book the Airbnb 4 times for the year. So right now, so that it's already paid for, it's done, it's on the calendar, it's set in stone, it's a non-negotiable. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to do with the Twitch stuff. There's a lot of, I've been neck deep in operations and managing my businesses, because we've got multiple businesses now. And so I've been kind of stuck managing and, in the operations side of the business and the sales side of it and all the stuff that we all do as business owners, guys. I'm not special. We all go through this, but I've been neglecting my SEO testing, and I love that. I really enjoy testing and trying things in SEO. And I've been neglecting that because I've been so focused on operating and managing our businesses. Well, so now that's why part of the reason I wanted to do this whole Twitch thing is because it forces me to commit to an hour or an hour and a half. But right now, I'm just going to commit to an hour per day to work on SEO related tasks, testing, research and discovery, and that kind of stuff. The things that I enjoy doing that I don't get to do as much anymore. And from that, new products or training or methods will be produced, if that makes sense. So I don't expect everybody to come watch that shit raw footage. What we will be doing is sending the raw footage to a video editor that will condense things down to make shorter form content from the raw footage. That will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. Don't know when we're going to start all that. I will get into some kind of a regular cadence or sequence of doing these things once I get a little bit more established into this routine. So all of that is to say, just go to twitch.tv/Bradley Benner. Come follow me, whether you see it live in the morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. I know that's early for a lot of you guys, so I don't expect you to be live. If you can, great. If not, then you can watch the replays. I did upgrade my Twitch account so that it will maintain the replays for up to 60 days. But before the 60-day time frame is up, we will have it, what's important, condensed and input on our YouTube channel as well.
Nice. All right. Well, before we get into the questions, just wanted to say too, we were talking about the Mastermind earlier, and I've got some good updates for people on Friday. We had some questions based off of some tools I had shared earlier in the week, and I've got a few updates. I mean, the AI machine learning stuff has been coming fast and furious, and it's not slowing down. And so I've got some fun new things to share with Mastermind members. So it's a little bit off the beaten path as far as the normal training goes, but I like to provide insights into this stuff because I use it. It's stuff I use with my business, with email marketing, and it's stuff that I think is going to benefit everybody across all industries. So really looking forward to sharing more of that. So if you're into that, but also if you are a local SEO agency owner or consultant, the Mastermind is probably the place for you. Come check it out. You can find out more at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. Cool.
There's some funny ass comments.
Oh, on the YouTube page?
Yeah. I'll get to them in a minute. Chris, did you start saying something? I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you?
Oh, good.
Okay. All right. Right on. Questions? Can we get into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, sweet. So we've got some pre-posted questions, but before I do that, I want to address some of these comments. So Evergreen FEO, Alfredo, what's up, buddy? He says, what's up, guys? Good morning. It's afternoon for me, but good morning to you. Good afternoon, says Keyword Management. Would like to learn more about investing in land. I would recommend, in our mastermind, I did a mini group called Land Mastery, where I coached a small group. I think it was 8 of us in the group for about 6 months on how to do exactly what I did for land flipping. So we do have a training course for that in the mastermind. We don't sell it separately, but there is a course in, well, actually we did sell it separately. So I don't know, maybe that's something we could do, but honestly, I would just direct you to Jack Bosch's Land Profit Generator. We have an affiliate link for that somewhere. So if you are considering purchasing that to learn about land investing, that's what I did. It's probably more now, but I spent $1,500 on that course in the beginning of, it was around March of 2019. And I spent 30 days studying that course. I was already familiar with real estate because I used to flip houses. From 2003 to 2008, I flipped houses, but not vacant land. So I was already familiar with a lot of contract law and stuff like that. So I was able to just study the Land Profit Generator course in about 30 days just to become re-familiar with everything. And then I set up my sales page or my funnel page, which is just a ClickFunnels page. It's just a single page landing page. And I set up a Google Ads campaign, and then I started direct mail. And within 30 days, I actually locked up 5 properties in my first 30 days. And the first one that went to closing netted me $15,985 or something. It's just under $16,000. My very first 30 days, no shit. And from that one course, Land Profit Generator. So again, if you're interested in that, if you're going to buy it through our affiliate link, I would appreciate that. But if not, just go buy it. Jack Bosch is a good dude. He's got good training. He's got a really good Facebook group, very supportive in the group. So I would encourage you to, even if you know, just go check that out first. If you want additional guidance on that kind of stuff, I'm not really teaching that stuff right now because I got too much business in SEO to start doing that. But I want to start not flipping land. I want to start buying and holding land for my own retirement, if that makes sense.
So Bradley, I'm just curious. I'm sure other people are too. I mean, this is getting off, but immediately I thought, if you're buying and holding, is your goal to have something that's generating income while you're holding it? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we can pursue this for a minute. I'm going to start doing short-term ATV rentals, so like Airbnbs. So I'm going to buy vacant land around the major trailheads because ATV tourism is a big fucking industry right now. And a lot of the towns where ATV tourism is big, they're old like coal towns and things like that. So that's their only revenue now. And so there are a lot of tax incentives in these towns that are around ATV resorts or trailheads and things like that. Because a lot of them are, at least on the East Coast, are from old coal operations, coal towns and things like that. So the economic development departments and things like that, they actually encourage investors to come in and buy property and develop and things like that. And so I'm going to start buying land around these ATV trailheads, just raw land, the way that I know how to buy it, about 30 cents on the dollar, sometimes less. And then I'm going to start improving the property, electric, water, septic, electric, well and septic, and then putting small cabins, probably container homes, sea container homes. If you guys know what I'm talking about, the containers, the shipping containers, they can make tiny houses out of them. I'm probably going to be putting those on those properties and then renting them out, doing Airbnb, short-term rentals. So that's kind of my goal, is I'm just going to start buying property and then start going through the motion of learning how to do the development side of things. And I've already found a sea container tiny house builder that I'm probably going to be using out in Ohio. So that's kind of my goal, is to start doing short-term rentals from that. That's a business that is increasing in demand for the ATV kind of tourism industry. So does that make sense?
Awesome. Thanks.
Right on. All right. Moving on. No cellular internet. Yeah, no, I had a mobile phone, and I did work for 1 hour every morning. I replied to comments and things like that. Somebody's asking, you unplugged, no cellular internet? I mean, I had my phone, but I didn't. 1 hour in the morning, I would reply to Facebook comments and emails and things like that. And then I put it away, like literally I put the phone away and didn't touch it again. I might look at it in the evening, but I did no replies to anybody else, no emails, nothing. I purposely unplugged for a reason. It's important to do that, guys. James says, I need to get in your mastermind. Yes, you do, James. So do all of you. Every one of you watching right now need to be in our mastermind. Next one. James says, I'm off the drink for a new year. Had 2 beers and wine so far tonight. I quit drinking in August of last year. August 15th was the last drink I had. And I plan on staying dry this entire year. Justin DeCarlo says, I missed the $497 mastermind offer. Any chance, Daddy, I can get a code so I can come back to you? No, but it only went up $100 for a quarter. So that's additional $33 per month. It's still worth it, dude. Trust me. And the reason why we raised it $100 is because there's a lot more value in there now than there was before because of the SOPs and everything else. It's worth it, man. It's buy 2 months, get 1 free is essentially what the quarterly offer is. So,
yeah.
This is a good question from James. This is funny because I get this sometimes on our mastermind onboarding calls. He said,
what the hell do these other guys do?
Yeah, what do the other guys do? Bradley is the only one I know from SM. So
so I'll talk myself up real quick. So yeah, my background is actually, I used to be an engineer, and then started building websites on the side. 2011-ish. That got me into SEO. Started doing that on the side, and then that's how I met these guys. And then over time, it's just changed. I've always been more on the writing kind of content side of things. And so I actually started getting more into email over time. So I have an email marketing agency, and over time, I've kind of focused more into e-commerce. Although, I mean, I do, or at least I'm responsible for semantic mastery, local fury, all that sort of stuff, webinars, promotions, email marketing. And so really that's what I've been doing for the last several years. And I really, really enjoy that side of it. And so that's why I still like to stay more up on the content side. And then I stay out of the technical side of SEO, although just being involved with semantic mastery and owning websites and stuff, I still know the basics and try to keep up on it, but leave that to Bradley. So that's me.
All right. So on my end, I'm basically on the back end of a couple hitting affiliates and stuff. So like mostly on the tech end and like bulk mailing things and stuff. So yeah, not able to talk about like who, but yeah, quite interesting, fun stuff that I'm doing, and quite happy with that.
Yeah, Chris does a lot of the dirty stuff behind the scenes that I certainly don't want to do. And Chris is always playing devil's advocate whenever we get together to kind of like start to plan out ideas and things like that, or goals that I may have. Chris is always the one to throw in like the other opinion. He's not a yes man, if that makes sense. And that's incredibly valuable to have that counterweight to like not always just being agreeable and moving forward with whatever we decide we want to do. So I don't know if I never convey that to you, Chris. You are a very important and critical part of semantic mastery, and I'm sure you're aware of that, but I probably don't say that enough. So
thank you.
Amen.
Yeah,
and then after the end,
three sides.
Yeah, at the end of this year, we're going to have some more experience combined in YouTube. I think this is going to be fun. You guys have heard Bradley talking about him going through the organic side. And then I've still got to finish up the retargeting side, but I went through a Larry Heck's course, yeah, on the YouTube ads, and then we're getting that started, ramped up, and their process is really good. But then going in and doing the retargeting side of that. So hopefully that'll bear some fruit here in the coming months.
Ooh, we need to figure out how to integrate the Twitch channel with that now too.
Yeah,
I don't know how. I'm brand new to Twitch, but we need to figure out how to integrate that with,
like we do everything else. Start doing it right, and then we'll figure it out.
That's right. Right on. Well, thanks for the comments, guys. Let's jump into pre-posted questions. There's a few. Gordon, it looks like Gordon, I misinterpreted your question last week. So anyways, I'm going to read it. It says, "Hey guys, a very happy new year to you. I'm very sorry to bother you with the previous question redo, so please forgive me." No, it apparently was my fault. I misunderstood or misinterpreted the question, and I didn't provide a proper answer. So don't apologize, but thanks. Back in December, I asked whether or not to use the physical address for a post office location, or for a private mailbox service location, or for a virtual office service on a local rank-and-rent lead gen website would cause Google to not index the site or negatively affect its organic ranking. But in your response, you only addressed using those addresses on a GMB or GBP listing. Yeah, and so that's where I misinterpreted the question. I'm sorry. I missed the part where you were talking about an organic asset only. I just assume when people ask about securing a mailbox for an address that they're automatically, I mean, why else would you have a mailbox or an address? Would you need an address for an organic asset only? I understand why you're doing that, but anyway, I'm just trying to justify why I missed the question. Now I understand what you were asking. And there is a reason to do that, because you can, if you can secure a location, an address that you can publish alongside everywhere the brand name is mentioned, all digital assets that you set up, you add the name, address, and phone number, even if you don't have a Google business location, you can cause enough, you can manufacture enough validation signals that Google, at least in the past, I don't know if they still do it, if Google still does this. I really don't know. It could be tested though, but in the past, absolutely 100% certain that Google would publish a Google business profile, formerly Google My Business, because there was enough validating information about that location that it was confident enough in automatically publishing a Google business profile. Doesn't mean it was claimed, but it would publish a unverified Google business profile because there was enough corroborating evidence online for Google to feel confident enough to create a Google business profile listing out of it. Now, you still have to go through the normal channels of verifying that listing, which now is a bit of a challenge and could be potentially a challenge going forward. What I'm saying though is I know in the past when I've come across unverified published listings, which now, if Google publishes a listing that Google can publish a listing that's unverified, we cannot, right? We used to be able to. We used to be able to go in and set up a Google business profile and it would publish immediately, but it would show as unverified until we received the postcard or whatever method it was that we verified it by and verified it. But it would publish, so it would be indexable and discoverable on the web once we created the listing. Now, Google took that away from us, I don't know, 3-4 years ago now, to where we could go in and create a Google business profile, but it wouldn't publish until it was verified, if that makes sense. What I'm saying is, in the past, Google would, with enough evidence online, supporting evidence, corroborating, whatever you want to call it, with enough validation online, that it would create and publish a Google business listing that's unverified. And it would be discoverable. It would publish. That's what I mean. Okay. So discoverable, indexed. I don't know that they still do that, but potentially it could still happen. And here's why I'm bringing this up, because in the past, if I discovered a published but unverified listing, like, for example, I took on a client that had an unverified listing, or if I wanted to try to secure it as a lead gen asset, if there was enough evidence online, then sometimes the verification process was as simple as an email or a phone call. Seriously, an email or phone call verification versus postcard verification, and now postcard with video verification. So the point that I think Gordon was trying to make was, if you create a organic lead gen asset that does not have a Google business profile, but you associate an address, a physical address, with that asset, and you continue to build out supporting assets that corroborate that data, can it publish? Will Google publish a Google business profile that may be unverified but still published, discoverable, indexable? I don't know. That's certainly worth testing, and that's something that I will be testing this month as part of the Rank&Rent SEO mastery stuff that I'm doing on Twitch. We will test that. It's likely that you won't be able to take a new brand and set it up and force Google to recognize it in a matter of weeks. It usually takes months before that happens anyways. So what I'm saying is, as part of the Rank&Rent SEO mastery stuff that I'm doing in Twitch for this month, I will test this with finding an address or securing an address, and then adding that to all of the assets that we're going to build out a bunch of assets across a couple of different brands too. Again, all of this will be covered in the live streaming stuff. But what I'm saying is, then over the course of this year, I will monitor and see if at some point one of the brands that I create the physical location for and associate with that brand, will it automatically publish a Google business profile, an unverified but published profile. I don't expect that to happen in the immediate term, but later on, sometime this year, with enough evidence, it may happen. And if that's the case, well, then, hey, at least now we know there's another option. If that makes sense. And what I'm saying is, when it comes to now trying to verify that, you may still be able to verify those types of listings if Google is still doing that via email and or phone versus US mail and video verification. Again, things are in limbo right now, guys. So, by the way, if anybody was on last week's Hump Day Hangout, and there was a comment, it's in here. I just have to expand this a bit. Okay, this guy right here. Sorry, guys. I was just trying to find it. This one right here. And I don't know if George ever reached out to us. I told him to contact support. George, if you're watching this now, contact support at semanticmastery.com. We're going to send you a t-shirt or something for this. We've had a couple of our members in Mastermind, because I reposted this, at least where I read this last week on Hump Day Hangouts. This is the hack that this, George, is that what his name is again? Whatever. Yeah, George mentioned this last week, which is, if you guys have noticed in Google business profiles, like the Google business website field is not available unless it was already published. If you go into a new Google business profile, or one that did not have a Google business website, published yet, the ability to publish that is gone now through the new profile editor and profile manager, which is in the SERPs, search engine results page, right? Right there, this comment is how he said he was able to find a workaround that made it appear to where then you could go in and publish that. I didn't get a chance to test it, but there was a couple of questions in our mastermind about this very same thing. And all I did was link to that section of the replay from last week's Hump Day Hangout in the mastermind, and had 2 different members test it and say it works. So again, George, if you hadn't already contacted us, contact us. I want to thank you for that, because it apparently does work. And that was great. That was really, really good. So that's, guys, doesn't always have to be us doing the teaching. We can learn from you as well. You know what I mean? And that was huge. That's a big thing. So anyway, that's why I brought that up, just because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on in Google business profiles right now. So we don't know if like this workaround is only temporary. Is Google doing away with Google business websites? I don't know. There's not been any official confirmation on that yet. There's a lot of speculation in the SEO world, isn't there always, right? Where everybody say, yeah, Google's deprecating Google business websites. You don't know that unless you have some sort of inside with the engineers at Google. Like, how do you know that? Or whoever says that. And there's been a lot of people saying that. And I don't know that yet. And I'm not willing to say that, yeah, Google's going with it. It seems like they are, but we don't know that yet. It could just be a bug, right? So in the meantime, this seems to be working. All right. Anyway, back to the questions. And I just lost my, here we go. So back to your question, Gordon. Do you think Google would not rank a organic website if you have a PO box or virtual mailbox associated with the organic with the brand? I don't know. I don't think that would be any reason for Google to not rank an organic asset. I don't know how that. I don't know for sure, because I haven't tested it. It's worth testing. I don't think that would be a problem. I can't imagine why it would be. But again, I don't know that. Any kind of guess that would give you right now would be that. It would be a guess, pure speculation. And I don't like to speculate unless I clearly disclaim that it's speculation. So I really have no idea whether it doesn't, in my opinion, no, I don't think it would cause any problems, because how does Google have the resources for that? I mean, to me, trying to spam a Google business listing, that could very likely trigger a suspension, even if you were able to verify it. But organic assets, I don't know that they're tracking that. Addresses associated with organic assets only. The point that I'm trying to make is, again, with enough corroborating evidence in the past, you could get a Google business profile published, even if it was unverified. I don't know that that's the case anymore. So basically, that was a long way to say, Gordon, I don't know. You'd have to test. I will test this theory throughout this month of January, but I won't expect to see whether it bears fruit or not for months down the road, if that makes sense. Okay. Anyway, next, by the way, what is your best guess as to when the edited version of the Rank and Rent training from Twitch will be posted on the YouTube channel? I have no idea. Honestly, I don't. This is my first one today. Once I get into a more regular routine, then I will develop a editing schedule where I won't actually do it, because we're hired a company to do all that now. But I will get into a regular routine and all that, but it's too new. It's the first day. Give me a little bit of time, Gordon. Just come back like you often do to these Hump Day Hangouts, or just come check it out on the Twitch channel, either way, and still come back here. And I'll have a better answer for you perhaps next week, but it might be 2 weeks before I have a more kind of regular routine built. Okay. It's brand new, guys, so just bear with me. Mike, what's up? Mikey says, Happy New Year's. I was like, honey, what is honey? I've got a new question. I've got a question about ranking Weebly or Strikingly or similar Web 2.0 properties that you mentioned recently, but I think you said not to link them to the money site or include any brand info. Can you explain what the benefit of ranking them is and how you use them for clients? Okay, so I think you misunderstood what I mentioned or what I said. Again, I'm going to be covering a lot of this stuff in the live streaming on Twitch over the next month and beyond. But my goal is to try to get most of the process completed in January. So in this month, my guess is it'll go over there. They typically do. I usually set, completion dates on these kind of projects, and it usually almost always gets extended because more work always pops up. It's just the nature of the business, right? So what I was saying was there are Web 2.0 assets that we can rank very quickly, generally because they're on high authority domains. So they benefit from that. With just some on-page optimization, you can oftentimes rank for low competition keywords with just, having these high authority properties with some decent content, right? And you really don't even need decent content. You just have to have, there's strategic parts of the page that need to be optimized properly. Cover all of this again in the live training. But you said that you mentioned recently, but I think you said not to link into the money site or include any brand info. No, that's not correct. It depends on what you're doing with those Web 2.0 assets. Okay. If you're going to build a brand, so the rank and rent SEO mastery, which is what I'm calling it, model that I'm going to be going through is to first do the research and discovery. Well, first decide a niche, right? Select an industry. Then you do the keyword research and discovery, which is a process to determine different keywords plus location modifiers in different combinations in the area that you've selected to determine what are the easy, quick ranking wins, right? What can we rank easily with just high authority properties? We test that with YouTube, schedule with live events. We can identify quick ranking keyword and location modifier combinations, and then we can go in and build quick ranking Web 2.0 in similar type of assets like cloud pages, G sites, Google sites, etc. In that targeting those keywords that we identified, we can rank quickly, right? But if we're going to build a brand, a more long-term brand, a more longer-term asset, which would be a brand on a self-hosted site, whether that's WordPress or HTML, I'm going to be doing both. A WordPress site and HTML versions of a WordPress or and HTML versions of a site, because I'm going to really be what I'm going to be sharing on Twitch, guys. And I said this today on the first live stream. I said, come correct or don't come at all. Come hard or don't come at all, which means I'm going to go into the area. I've already got 2 areas selected that I'm going to target. And we're going to carpet bomb or blanket that entire area, like with a bunch of keyword plus location modifier combinations. And out of all of that, which is going to be a lot of work, but we will find a good percentage of them that will rank very easily. Then we go in and we build out more long-term assets for those areas. We start with the quick ranking keyword and location modifier combinations first on a self-hosted site. So that's the longer-term asset. We use the Web 2.0s for ranking quickly. If we're going to build a brand, though, then we want to know what your brand is going to be before you start this process. Secure a domain, get a logo created, right? Get graphics created, secure phone numbers, get everything set up, and then you start testing, poking keywords in a particular area. Once you identify the quick ranking keywords or the low competition keywords, then you start to build out the Web 2.0 assets with the brand information. They're branded assets. They should be. If you're going to build a long-term asset to target those areas, then you want the Web 2.0 assets to be branded assets, because those assets, even though we're building those first, will support the self-hosted site once we build that, which won't be until after we've done the Web 2.0 assets. Hopefully this is making sense. But the reason I say don't link from those Web 2.0 assets to a brand is only if you're going to be spamming the Web 2.0 assets with bulk spam links. Because now you can rank Web 2.0 assets by spamming them with bulk spam links. I don't do any kind of bulk spam at all anymore, but I know a lot of you do. A lot of SEOs still do. I don't. But if you're going to bulk spam with shit links to a Web 2.0 asset, do not link that directly to your money site. At least if you're going to, use no follow links from the Web 2.0 site to the money site, so that you're not tanking your money site because you're pushing a bunch of shitty link equity that's non-relevant from crappy sites to your money site. The Web 2.0 assets, because they have high domain authority, and in this case, I do mean Moz's domain authority, they can withstand that kind of abuse. But a self-hosted website that has no authority or very little authority, that can actually hurt the site. So I probably wasn't clear when I said it initially, but what I'm trying to say is it depends on what you're going to be doing with those Web 2.0 assets. If you're just going to rank non-branded Web 2.0 assets or branded Web 2.0 assets, but never have a money site that you're going to eventually link to from those assets, then you spam away, spam until your heart is content. But if you're going to be building a longer term asset that's a branded asset, self-hosted asset that the branded Web 2.0 profiles are going to be linking to, don't spam those. Or if you are going to spam those Web 2.0 assets, make sure there are no follow links from the Web 2.0 assets to the money site. right? So that you're not pushing shitty link juice to your money site. That's what I was trying to say, okay? The way that I'm going to be teaching is not to spam any of it, because that's not my method. I don't do bulk spam links anymore. So I'll be building out Web 2.0 assets that are branded. I already have the brand secured before we start building out the assets. Once we start getting the Web 2.0 assets to rank, then we go in and build the more longer term asset, which is a self-hosted site. I'm going to do one brand version on a WordPress site. Then I'm going to do another brand version on HTML pages. If that makes sense. And we'll build all that out. And then I'm going to use my links, semantic links, to build links to those properties to help them to rank and stick. And that's what I'm going to be teaching. So anyway, it's a good question. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. You said, what is the benefit of ranking them and how do you use them for clients? Well, for me, like I said, I'm going to have a brand for each. I've got multiple brands now that I'm going to have at my disposal that I can deploy in different locations, or even 2 brands or 3 brands in one location. So I can literally dominate an area. So those Web 2.0 assets will be branded assets for that, whatever brand it is. But they're lead gen. So, you know, what I've done for tree contractors in the past is we just have I direct my calls to a call center. So the call center just answers the call and says, you know, whatever the lead gen asset brand name is, the lead gen brand name is, subcontractor for, or whatever. We say the company name that the contractor that's buying the leads from me is subcontracted by whatever the brand name is, my brand, my lead gen brand. Does that make sense? So it's not, because before I did that, when I was just directing leads directly from the my lead gen assets to a contractor, there was some confusion at times from the customer side, because they thought they contacted one company online and then another company shows up at their house or calls them to schedule an estimate. Does it make sense? That can create some confusion. So when I switched to just using a answering service, answerconnect.com, I've been using them for over 10 years now. And now what I do is I have the company that's buying the leads from me, when the answer receptionist, whatever, customer agent, whatever they call them at Answer Connect, when they answer the phone, they say, you know, Joe's Tree Service subcontractor for whatever my lead gen asset name is. Does that make sense? And we make it very clear. They're a subcontractor for whatever my lead gen brand is. No confusion. Solved any problems. I've been doing this for over 10 years now, and it's never been a problem. So hopefully that makes sense. Point is, own the asset, guys. That's the point. You maintain control that way. Next one. Sam says, is there a way to have more than 2 applets using the free version of IFTTT right now? I don't know, but isn't their pro account like $3 a month? I know if you've got dozens of IFTTT, that's part of the reason we stopped really teaching the syndications. Still called Syndication Academy, but it's not, the syndication part isn't as effective as it used to be anyways. What's important now is expanding your entity footprint, creating a presence, a branded presence on various platforms around the web, optimizing that profile. You guys understand having less profiles and citations that are better optimized is more valuable, more effective than more or higher quantity of unoptimized mentions and listings? Do you guys understand? Like, having 50 or 60 really well optimized citations is better than having 300 unoptimized citations. Do you understand what I'm saying? So with IFTTT, for a long time, syndicating content really helped with SEO. That's not as effective as it used to be, but what's still effective is what SE teaches as part of Syndication Academy, which is to go out and create a presence on all these different assets on the web, and then fully optimize that profile. Like, spend time. That's what she does in the Syndication Academy update webinars. Every 2 weeks, she does an update webinar where she'll do 1, 2, or 3 different platforms where she'll go in and show, here's how you create an account, here's how you optimize it, and here's how you interlink it, so that you're helping, I call it discoverability. You're helping Google discover these other branded assets. So you're adding nodes to the knowledge graph. It's called informing the knowledge graph, right? And that's essentially what we teach at Syndication Academy. And that's what's really important. Not having hundreds of profiles, but having really well the profiles that you do have, having them really well optimized and then interlinking them for discoverability purposes, if that makes sense. It's critically important. So anyway, as far as IFTTT applets, we got away from doing syndication for that reason, because they changed the structure, number one. Number two, it's not as effective as it used to be. It still makes sense to syndicate content, but it's just not as effective for SEO as it used to be. But as I said before, IFTTT has a pro account. I don't know what the cost is, but it's very inexpensive. So just, if it's that important to you, just pay for the pay for the pro account. It's very inexpensive. All right. Dirk says, hey guys, I got a content piece I'm trying to rank for, a very lucrative affiliate keyword. And after publishing for a bit and building a handful of links, was at the top of page 3. After several weeks, I secured one good quality relevant niche edit off of Legiit and a topically relevant link, and added internal links from other strong pages that are ranking and get regular impressions of Google. Since doing all that and letting it sit, the page has dropped off to page 10. Is it normal? Anchor texts aren't spammy, and I've been careful not to go hard on exact match anchors. Also, no PBNs or anything. Wondering what your recommendations would be. There's so many variables in that. There's just no way that I can provide like a, I can give you some things to look at, but there's no way that without me actually looking at all the data, which is, on page factors, off page factors, the type of links, the quality of the links, the relevancy, there's a lot that goes into auditing something like that to determine what the true culprit is. So all I can do is give you some kind of high level guidance on things to look for. Number one is cannibalization. Got to be very careful, guys. Some of the most recent Google core algorithm updates have been Panda refreshes, which are on-page optimization types of penalties that can occur. And I've had some of my own sites just tank in the last couple of months because of those Panda refreshes. And what I've discovered is that Google is really kind of switching back to, for a long time, and we taught this for a long time, Cubs, because it was very, very effective, but you create a silo on a site, for example, right? Top level term is the top of silo page. And then you start publishing a bunch of supporting content that is nested or placed within that category, that silo, right? So you create internal links and you're adding depth to that topic through the supporting content. You're adding depth to it, right? And then you internally link back up to that page and cross-link to other pages within that silo and all of that. And that worked for forever. For years, that was the most effective strategy. But what I found from a lot of my own kind of sites, but I had 2 of them got really hit hard, and some of the most recent algorithm updates, one that occurred in October, actually, that what happens is Google is like, there's a lot of support. If you've got a lot of content pages on the site that are targeting the same or very similar keywords, that can actually cause like we always think about as SEOs, cannibalization is just the exact term. Like if we've got 2 pieces of content on the same site that are optimized for the same keyword in the title tag, and the content is optimized for that same kind of keyword, now that causes cannibalization issues, which is like Google is seeing 2 different pages that are competing for Google's attention on the same site. So it just demotes both of them. Do you understand? That's what cannibalization issues are. Like, it's when you have other pages on the site that are competing for the same search query, same term. What I found was a lot of these supporting content silos that I had were actually, and this only occurred with the most recent kind of Panda refresh, which I believe occurred in October. Anyway, that basically it's now it's not just the exact match keyword that can cause cannibalization, it's variants. Do you understand? A close variant of a keyword, Google, it considers synonymous. All of those keywords, all of those variants are synonymous with that term. And what I've discovered, again, was that what used to work no longer is working. And I've actually I've got hit with a couple of Panda penalties because of it. So how am I mitigating that? And that's one thing that's just one thing. I don't know that that's your problem, but you said that you have a lot of other content pages on your strong pages on your site. That could be an issue. That would be one of the first things I would look for, because if you link to from other pages on the site that may be targeting similar or very close variants of whatever your target keyword is, now you could be forcing Google to like say, like now, you could be confusing Google. Okay, well, which of all these pages that are all about the same kind of thing, similar thing, which one should we rank? So we don't know. We're just going to demote all of them. So anyway, I don't know that that's the case, but that's one thing I would look for, because I've seen that occur, like I said, on 2 of my own sites in the last 3 months that just tanked. So one of them I went through and I deleted all of the supporting content, like no shit. And we're talking about years of content. I went through and moved every single supporting post to trash, every one of them in the WordPress site. And so now it's just my top of silo pages. And it started to come back. It's been 3 weeks. It takes that long, which, by the way, that's something else. I gotta clarify this, guys. If you're trying to investigate an issue like this, where you did 5 or 6 different things and it tanked, you don't know which out of those 5 or 6 different things caused it to tank. Unfortunately, it did, right? It tanked, and now you've got 5 or 6 different things that you don't know was which one of those things was the cause, or which combination of those things was the cause. You have no way of knowing. So the only thing that you can do now is change or remove one of those changes, or modify it, and then you have to wait. Unfortunately, and Google did this intentionally. Google's no dummy. You know what I mean? Google did this intentionally. You make a significant on-page change, you got to wait 3 weeks before you can do any other changes to see what kind of an effect that change has. Because otherwise, and guys, I know how hard it is to be, because we're SEOs, we're impatient. If we make a change, we want to see the results of that change yesterday or today or tomorrow. You know what I mean? Not 3 weeks from now, because especially you got a client that's pissed because their rankings tanked, and you tell them, like, oh, I got to change one thing and wait 3 weeks and see. Like, I understand it's difficult to kind of convey to a client. I get that. But that's the nature of the game. That's why, like I said, when you make a significant on-page change, don't make 5 or 6 changes all at once. Make one and then wait. And I know that sucks. I wish we could speed up the process, but it is what it is. It's Google kind of puts that change into a probationary period. And sometimes you'll see an initial kind of movement from it, but you have to wait for that kind of probationary period to end, which is roughly 21 days. I don't know what the exact date is, but usually around 3 weeks. If you wait, then you can, it will have settled into whatever new position it is in the algorithm. I talk about this with clients oftentimes, but with link building, for example, anytime you're injecting new data into the algorithm, it's like dropping a rock into a pond or a lake, and it causes ripples in the algorithm. That's what it does. And so that's why whenever you start making on-page changes or content changes, or adding content, removing content, or adding links, pointing links to the site, you'll start to see dancing. And it's because it's new data being injected into the algorithm. The algorithm is rippling. It doesn't know what to do. So, and you have to wait until it settles. Once it settles, then it will have kind of settled into a more permanent position based upon the new data. Then you can go in and make some additional adjustments. And I know that sucks, because it would be nice if we could go in and make 5 changes. If something didn't work, we could go in and remove one of those changes, or change it again. And 2 or 3 days, we see a result. But Google did this intentionally, guys. And it was to prevent people like us from manipulating search, right? So, first of all, like I said, I would consider on-page, if you're talking about a site with a lot of content, the first thing I would look at is potential cannibalization or panda issues based upon what has changed recently in the algorithm. Number 2, look at your backlinks. Again, you said that you bought a couple of links that weren't spammy and everything else. I don't know. I mean, I may have a different opinion if I were to analyze those links. I don't know that. They may be perfectly relevant, perfectly fine. I don't know that, but I know that there are a lot of people that sell links that are shit links. And so that could be an issue too. But my first guess would be it's an on-page issue, likely a panda issue, cannibalization. But again, there's just so many variables there that I can't really give you a good answer without analyzing it myself. Anyway.
First thing that I would do before I even look at that, check Google Webmaster Tools, because there might be some other issue as well.
Yeah, Search Console. You can look for a manual penalty in Search Console. Go look at manual actions and see if there's a penalty applied, but it's likely not. It's rare that I see manual action penalties anymore. They're almost all algorithmic penalties, and algorithmic penalties, there won't be notification of that.
Errors and stuff, so like
crawl errors.
Yeah, for example.
Yeah, and you could look for that too. You could also use stuff like, Screaming Frog or Sitebulb or some sort of site crawler, and do a technical SEO audit, determine if there's, kind of any big issues, structure or internal links, things like that. But My guess is it seems to me like it's an algorithmic penalty, which is typically going to be a panda, or it could be a penguin. But from this brief amount of detail that I have here, it seems to me like it's more likely going to be a panda penalty than a penguin, which would be kind of more of a backlink issue. But again, I just can't answer that without more data.
Are you still doing audits in the Mastermind?
No, but I do have an audit function on vetted.
Yep.
I don't particularly like to promote that service because it really does consume a lot of my time to do an audit. But you can go to vetted, to my profile on vetted with 3 T's, VETTTED.com/Bradley Benner or whatever. Just I'm on the first page of vetted. Just go to vetted if you want. If you want to, you can purchase an audit from me there. Like I said, it eats up a lot of my time to do an audit, but I could do it for you. So I don't like selling that service, but I made it available to people. So, all right, guys, we got about 5 more minutes, a few more to get through. So when a page is sandboxed by Google, do you still go ahead with building links to it and supporting content internally linking to it, or let it sit for a while before doing anything else? That's a good question. You know, I will build links to it, but publishing more and additional content, it depends on what it is that you're doing. Again, generally when I publish content for like a news site, we try to get it all done all at once, if that makes sense. Like all the top level pages and everything, we try to publish all of that within a matter of days, so that we're basically like, hello Google, here's what we do, here's all of our data, right? Then if we're going to start adding supporting content in the silo or when needed, then it's generally going to be after kind of the initial sandbox has occurred, right? That initial time period is over. So now once it's an established site, when you talk about sandbox by Google, that's usually a brand new website, and it's about a 90-day period. At least it was historically. I don't know if it's been extended or shortened, but in the past, it's always been around 90 days. Generally, once you're past that 90-day period, then you don't really have to suffer, experience that, except there is kind of a probationary period between significant changes, which is what I mentioned before. If you make significant structural changes, significant on-page changes, that let it sit for 3 weeks before you add or make any additional changes. But the initial kind of sandbox period, which is, again, historically, it's been about 90 days. Generally, what I will do there is publish all of the initial content first, the top level pages and everything. We do absolutely start building links to it immediately, as well as citations and whatever else. And then we're not going to wait 90 days to start publishing posts. If the client is paying for posts, we're going to start publishing posts right away. But the point that I'm trying to make is, as long as you're not doing anything like super spammy, then you should be okay, right? Because Google's expecting new websites to publish content, not wait for 90 days before they publish content. So just think about, like, what do other website owners and company business owners do that aren't SEOs? Do they even know about the sandbox? No, they don't. Of course they don't. So do you think they wait for 90 days to start publishing supporting content? No. If they're going to be publishing content, they're just going to start publishing content. So you got to think about it that way. Like, in my opinion, no, don't wait. The only thing I say about waiting is if you are experiencing some sort of drop in rankings, potentially a penalty, and you go in and you try to figure out why, and you make a change, you can't just expect in 3 days, like, oh, I didn't see any movement, so I'm going to go in and make 18 more changes. Don't do that, because then you have no idea what worked and what didn't work, and you're always guessing. So it sucks, but you have to make one change and wait, make another change and wait, make another change and wait. And that's unfortunately, but that's Google did that intentionally, guys. It makes sense why they did it. So Craig says, how would you approach SEO and specifically link building in the adult space? I heard links are quite spammy, but not sure, and wanted to get your thoughts. I don't know. I don't do anything in the adult space. It's not that I have a moral issue with it. I really don't. But I just don't do anything in the adult space. And part of that, and we actually had a potential link building client, or actually a link building customer from Vetted, contact me and ask if my team would be willing to do adult related links. And I said, I don't have he asked, do you have a problem with that? I don't personally have a problem with it, but my writing team is about 80% female, and I would have to ask their comfort level, because they're the ones producing the content. And honestly, I don't even want to ask that of them. So I avoid that shit. So I can't give you any guidance on that, because I'm just not in that industry. I apologize, but that's just not my area of expertise. So. All right, Frank says, for rank and rent, how do you price out your monthly rental fee where you still have good profits and not too pricey, where the client will think they can just hire an SEO agency or do their own marketing? Also, how do you deal with factoring and upkeep costs like link building, et cetera? Yeah, I mean, you have to factor all of that in. You know, it depends on kind of the volume, the search volume, or excuse me, the volume of leads that you can generate from your assets. The pricing can vary, right? It can vary depending on the competition level, depending on the number of leads that come in. And it can vary even in the same industry by location. The prices can vary, right? So, you know, typically what I do is I try to, you know, keep now, especially with the hybrid model that I'm going to be building out live as part of what I'm doing for on my Twitch channel, is keeping the cost of the rank and rent assets, the organic stuff, low, fairly low, so that I can upsell them on retainer pricing, you know, for optimizing their Google business profile. I talk about this being the hybrid model. So my rank and rent, that's part of the reason I'm switching to rank and rent. I've done almost my entire lead gen business has been on pay per lead or revenue share model, but I'm switching to rank and rent because it's easier to manage, it's easier to scale, and because I can offer those assets on a low monthly fee. Like, I don't know, and again, I haven't, because I'm just starting this process, but you know, I'm thinking anywhere between $300 to $500 a month to rent the assets that I will rank, organic assets. And then once I get a lead buyer in place that is, you know, either buying the leads or renting the assets from me, and I establish a relationship, then I can always, because I have a dialogue with them at that point, I can always like, hey, by the way, you have a Google business profile, right? It's not ranked. Obviously, that's why I contacted you. You know, besides buying my leads, I can also work on optimizing your Google business profile so that you can generate leads from your own profile as well as mine. That'll be in another $500 a month or whatever it is, whatever it ends up being. So that way, again, my rank and rent assets is a lead in that will secure retainer money too. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you're doing strictly lead gen without doing a hybrid model, that does change things, right? You want to try to maximize your profitability from those lead gen assets. And so again, what I typically do is once the assets are producing leads, as then I kind of go in and I look at what would somebody be paying if they were paying for ads, Google ads, to generate the same volume of leads. And that's based on some, you know, and we're over, I know that, guys, so I'm going to wrap this up in just a minute, but that's based on cost per click numbers and AdWords, and based upon, you know, let's say a 30% convert, 30 to 35% conversion rate. So if a tree removal keyword click costs $50, which is quite normal in the tree service industry, and it's a 35% conversion rate, that means it takes 3 clicks to get 1 lead. 3 clicks at $150 or $50 per click is $150 per click, makes $150 per lead. Does that make sense? Now, I don't sell it at that much. I sell it at a lot less than that. But what I would do is determine what is my volume. What would somebody be paying if they were paying Google ads to generate this number of leads? And then I do a percentage off of that. Like, in other words, I do less than that, because that's incentive for them to be investing in my leads as opposed to paying Google directly. Does that make sense? So I use the Google ads keyword data and numbers. And sometimes you have to run ads in a location to determine what the true numbers are, because the Google data and the Google ads keyword planner is not accurate. So if that means you got to spend a little bit of your own money testing some ads to determine what the conversion rates are and what your cost per acquisition or cost per lead is, then do it, because you're investing in data. You're buying information that will make you better at your lead gen business, because you'll be able to not leave money on the table, or you know what I'm saying? So, but that's what I typically do. Okay. And again, I'm going to be covering all of this in our live stream stuff on Twitch. So if that's interesting to you, come check it out. All right, 2 more, guys, and I'm gonna wrap it up. What is the Mastermind timestamp for George's business.site workaround? Robert, it's in the Facebook group, if that's what you're asking. I published that in one of the, there was 2 different posts about that same question, about Google Business Profile or Google Business website not appearing in the SERP manager. And there was, in both of those posts, I posted the link. If you want, once I get off the call today, I'll just post that as a separate thread in the Facebook group. Okay. It's also in the last week's Mastermind, or excuse me, Hump Day Hangout, right? If you go to the previous, I'll just demonstrate this for God's sake. Go in here, go to Semantic Mastery, We're going to go to videos. Actually, we'll just go right back there because this was the last, I thought that was from last week. Is that last week? Yeah, 424. We go in there. I'm just going to click pause. And you just go down here to the timestamps. Right here. Right here. 40 minutes and 22 seconds. You click that right there. That takes you right to the part of the Hump Day Hangout where that was covered. If that makes sense. And that was also, like I said, I posted exactly what I just shared there. I just went share, start at, copied that URL and pasted that in the Facebook group so that it starts immediately at that point. If that makes sense. Oh, you guys aren't seeing my screen. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good though. You said the exact time so people can just hop over
40
there.
minutes and 24 or something like that. 40 minutes and 22 seconds. You guys aren't seeing my screen. I keep forgetting that we don't have that on now. Anyway, last question. What is the black hat method for getting GMB reviews? Client asks for how can we provide them? I don't recommend doing that at all anymore. The same as for questions and answers, fine. You can get away with doing that all day long, but I do not recommend doing fake Google reviews anymore right now. The FTC started cracking down in October of last year. So 2022, just a couple of months ago, in the United States, the FTC started fining and lawsuits, started calling lawsuits or whatever against businesses that it has determined were buying fake reviews. So stay away from that. You do not want the FTC on your back. Trust me. So I don't recommend that at all anymore, period. Don't fake GMB reviews. So I'm not going to give you any recommendations on providers or anything. Just don't do it. You're going to open yourself up for liability, litigation, all kinds of stuff. Just don't do it. Potential criminal charges. Don't do it. Same questions and answers. Questions and answers. You can post those all day long. And we have a service at Local Fury, intermittent, but it's getting better, that does questions and answers, but we don't do reviews specifically for that reason. Anyway. Okay, guys, thanks everybody for being here. We appreciate you guys. I'm sorry I missed any comments in the Facebook, or excuse me, the YouTube chat app, but we ran out of time. So we'll see you guys.